Oni Bhattacharya on location starts this special report on the battle for Claremont Road.
Thank you, Gwyn. The operation to remove the protesters from these houses looks set to continue for some time to come. It's been an expensive exercise. Operation Garden Party has cost over £300,000 in police wages alone. Channel 1 television has been here for the past 3 days and we've spoken to a number of people. This has been one of the bitterest environmental disputes for years.
It could have been just another protest against a road development, but the M11 Link Road campaign became an international symbol of protest. For months, protesters held up work on the £200 million project connecting Redbridge with Hackney. The most significant step came with the taking of Bushwood in Leytonstone in September. The ancient woodland was mercilessly cut down and pounded into the ground behind a massive police cordon, despite efforts by the campaigners to stop them.
Look at it. Look at what's happening. They're just destroying every single tree in the place. It's a terrible sight, and they don't care.
Attention then went on to Claremont Road, a small Georgian terrace in Leytonstone. For almost 20 years it was rented out to various housing associations, before being squatted in by the campaigners a year ago. They pledged to stop the new road going ahead at any cost. Many of the houses were filled with rubbish. In the basements below, bunkers were built to stop bailiffs taking them easily.
We've entombed ourselves in rubbish all the way around us, and the idea is basically to make the bailiffs dig us out, and it'll take them a whole long time to do it, and that'll cost them a lot of money. And obviously the more money it costs them, the more seriously they have to think about road building programmes.
But that all changed on Monday. Campaigners were tipped off that police and bailiffs would move in. Last-minute fortifications were made to the houses. On the streets there was a tense but determined effort to stop the houses being taken.
There's an incredible number of measures being taken. There's a tower block on top of one of the houses, scaffolding, with people feet up into the air. There's nets over on the streets to stop the cherry pickers taking people off the houses. There's people in bunkers. People are going to be locked onto cars. Every conceivable measure's been taken to stop these houses being demolished.
Others too echoed those sentiments.
Well, lots of last-minute preparations, but lots of people just sitting around, chilling out, getting their heads together for what might happen today. We all know that it could be pretty nasty, but we're all ready for it. We all think it's worth it.
At least when they build another road, they're going to stop and think, aren't they, about all the trouble this one's caused.
But just after 2 on Monday afternoon, police and bailiffs moved in. 700 officers arrived to take part in Operation Garden Party. They filled local streets, eventually sealing them off. Many protesters were thrown out of Claremont Road and were angry at the police action.
A woman was lying on the ground and they walked on her. I have never been so disgusted, and I've seen a lot in the campaigns. I was at Twyford, I was at the tree at Wanstead, and that was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'm standing in the street that I've been in for 18 years, yeah. So they've removed me now. They're moving everybody. They've just cornered us from both sides, and they're just picking everybody up through force and moving us out.
So how do you feel about that?
Pretty out of order, really. You got moved as well.
So what happened to you?
What happened to me? Nothing. I was just sitting down, minding my own business, and some man decided to put his hands all over me.
Some gave up throughout the night when the cold became too much. Others, though, braved the chill wind on rooftops, only to pour scorn on police below in the morning.
And we're still in control of the street. They've done sod all. They've spent thousands of quid, and they smashed a couple of windows. Most of them are standing around doing nothing. You think that's a waste of taxpayers' money? I do.
I pay taxes.
Most will eventually give up, but the diehards buried in the houses, up on the roofs and up almost 100 foot of scaffolding, say they'll be there to the very end. Despite everything being against their winning this battle, their mood remains defiant. They say they are victors because of the massive attention drawn to the environmental issues behind this protest.
The protesters have always seemed one step ahead of the authorities down here. They've mounted what's almost a military exercise to keep the bailiffs out. Channel 1's Patrick O'Hagan and Tom Nicholson were the only 2 television journalists to remain behind the defences when police cleared the rest of the media out.
Claremont Road was notorious among locals for its psychedelia, squatters and New Age travellers. But everyone living in this time-warped street of the 60s knew the rave had to end sometime. The arrival of police officers, bailiffs and contractors was inevitable. The only doubt the protesters had was exactly when their bizarre community would be bulldozed. For more than 48 hours, I and my colleague Tom Nicholson watched events unfold from 30 feet high above Claremont Road. We were living inside one of the 3 watchtowers the campaigners called Middle Treehouse. Getting inside had been our first problem. There was a rickety rope bridge which swayed to and fro. Once the houses were barricaded, the only way in and out was terrifying. The reason for building tree houses was to prevent the felling of what the protesters saw as part of the local community. The lone protester who shared his home with us told us what ingredients make a good structure.
Generally you've got bits of old steads, bookcase that's like binding together to make a corner piece. Got old cushions that you find around the place, old mattresses that you find in the street, a bit of old plastic stuff that's generally thrown away.
There were other luxury items: heating, lighting, a radio to the outside world, and even a television. All that changed though, and life became much more difficult when diggers were brought in to cut the power off to our little refuge. As the rope bridge swayed from side to side, we could see demonstrators below. Some were locking themselves to the ground in a final attempt to halt the bulldozers from doing their work. At dusk, in came the bailiffs with pneumatic drills. As the sun went down and temperatures dropped, hopes of stopping the great concrete motorway began to fade. Police and bailiffs were slowed down by what amounted to a military exercise. The most elaborate defences in Claremont Road include several underground bunkers buried beneath 4 of the houses. Some are just dugouts covered in rubble, others underneath the anti-M11 campaign offices are more elaborate and lined with concrete. Channel 1 can reveal that a secret tunnel made of 80 oil drums is welded together. The Rat Run, buried 5 feet underground, connects a neighbouring house and has been designed for a last-minute great escape. But the most impressive symbol of resistance towers 86 feet above where the link road will soon be built. It's constructed of scaffolding and wood, and the poles have been greased together to deter unwanted climbers. Ropes are lowered to let friends in. But most protesters were perched precariously on the dilapidated roofs of the Georgian Terrace. As we filmed the eviction in progress, we watched workmen and bailiffs battling to take ground. Their first target, the home of the veteran campaigner Dolly Watson. The recapture of her house came as a devastating psychological blow to the campaigners. The operation of the workmen was methodical but painfully slow. With every hour we spent in the treehouse, we knew the protesters were achieving their objective. But the bailiffs looked confident, as if they knew they were better equipped to win. Part of their tactics was to keep everyone awake throughout the night. The constant hum of generators and crashing of giant caterpillars made sure of that. At dawn, bleary-eyed protesters who'd travelled from as far away as Sweden and Germany to support the cause received another body blow. Their beloved trees creaked and fell under the bayonet of chainsaws. We weren't close enough to capture the tears, but the abuse was highly vocal. Next came the hydraulic lifts. A roar of support went up for each captive as they waved goodbye to the Republic of Leytonstonia. Some tried to slip through the arms of the law, but most didn't bother. As our lifeline bridge to the rooftops was taken apart, a minority of those left prepared to bolt themselves to the barricades. As we walked out, it seemed clear that the real extremists, those high up in the tower and the ones buried underground, wouldn't be so easy to shift. Patrick O'Hagan, Channel 1, Leytonstonia.